when you're ready.
All right, ready. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. So, just to recap everything, yes, as an Italian citizen, you can get a Russian e visa pretty easily. It's a simpler process than the old 90-day tourist visa you used to get. You can apply online, and it allows you to stay for up to 16 days in places like Moscow and other major regions. Just keep in mind that if you want a longer stay, like a 90-day visa, you still need to apply for that separately before traveling. But for a short visit, the e-visa is a really convenient option.
I wonder if you could skip out of the country in 15, 16 days to a nearby country and then come back in with your 90-day visa.
Yeah, that's a pretty common thought. Essentially, doing a quick trip out of the country and then coming back in on a different visa is something people do sometimes. The main thing is you'd have to have that 90-day visa already arranged before you come back. So you'd leave Russia, go to a nearby country, and then re-enter with the new visa if that's all lined up. It's definitely doable as long as you have everything prepared in advance.
So, what's a nearby country that's really near? I'm talking seriously near, it's especially Moscow.
Well, if we're talking seriously near Moscow, one of the closest options is Belarus. It's right next door and pretty convenient for a quick trip out and back in. Another option could be the Baltic states like Latvia or Lithuania, which aren't too far away either. So you've got a few nearby countries that are away from Moscow. Away from Moscow if you need to do a quick hop out and then come back in. So Belarus or one of the Baltic countries would be a pretty straightforward choice.
How would you get from Latvia to Russia?
Yeah, so getting from Latvia to Russia is actually pretty doable. You can usually take a train or bus from Riga, which is the capital of Latvia, directly to Moscow. There are established routes that make it a pretty straightforward overland journey, and it's not too complicated. Of course, you could also fly if you prefer a quicker option. But yeah, there are definitely land routes that connect Latvia and Russia pretty easily.
How long would a trip be from Riga to Moscow?
It's a pretty decent journey. By Cayenne, it usually takes around 16 to 20 hours, depending on the route and any border checks. If you opt for a bus, it's roughly in the same ballpark, around 15 to 18 hours. And if you choose to fly, then it's obviously a lot faster, just a couple of hours. But yeah, by land, it's basically an overnight kind of trip.
Isn't Belarus uh, considered Russian visa now? It's the same story, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right on the money there. Essentially, Russia and Belarus have a sort of visa agreement. So if you have a Russian visa, you can generally travel to Belarus without needing a separate Belarusian visa. They kind of treat it as a unified travel area in that sense. So if you go to Belarus, it's almost like an extension of being in Russia in terms of the visa. So that does make things a little simpler if you're considering that route.
So is it possible to go to Belarus to Russia, or you can only go from Russia to Belarus as an Italian citizen?
Absolutely. You can go from Belarus to Russia as well. It's a two-way street. So if you have a valid Russian visa and you're an Italian citizen, you can enter Belarus and then travel onward to Russia without needing a separate visa for Belarus. They have a kind of mutual travel area agreement. So you can definitely go the other way around as well. It just makes that whole travel corridor a bit more flexible for you.
Say you get the 16-day visa, right, that we were talking about. How long before you can come back? Can you just go out for one day and come back in for another 16 days?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, with the Russian e visa, technically you do need to leave the country once your 16 days are up. And there isn't a strict mandatory waiting period written in the rules, but it's not always guaranteed that you can just leave for a day and then immediately come back in on a new e visa. Sometimes border control might look at that a little closely if you're doing it repeatedly, but generally you can reapply for a new e visa and re enter. Just keep in mind that doing it over and over might raise a few eyebrows, but it's definitely possible to leave and come back in after a short trip out if you have a new e-visa lined up.
Okay, there's a few options there.
Yeah, definitely a few ways to play it. It's nice that there are these flexible options and you can kind of pick what works best for you. So if you want to do a short hop out and come back in, or if you want to do a longer visa, you've got a bit of flexibility to work with.
How would you pay for things in Belarus? Aren't they under sanctions and your Visa and MasterCard from abroad won't work there?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Belarus does have some sanctions, and that can indeed affect whether your foreign Visa or MasterCard works. In many cases, international cards might not be accepted or they might be unreliable. What a lot of travelers do is either bring some cash in euros or dollars and exchange it locally, or use a local bank to get a card that works there if you're staying a bit longer. Another option could be looking into local payment systems or even prepaid cards that are known to work in Belarus. But yeah, definitely something to plan for because your usual foreign cards might not do the trick there.
Okay, I physically watched a Belarusian woman pay for products in Italy in Catania right in front of me.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. A lot of Belarusian visitors or residents in Europe will have cards that are issued by European banks or cards that are tied to international networks that are accepted in Italy. So she might have a card that works perfectly fine in the EU or in Italy specifically. It's more about the direction you're going. So using a Belarusian or European issue card in Italy is pretty smooth. It's just the other way around using a foreign card inside Belarus or Russia where it can get a bit tricky. But yeah, that definitely winds up with what you saw.
Would a Wise card work in Belarus?
So a Wise card can sometimes work in Belarus, but it's a bit hit or miss. Wise is pretty good for international transactions in general, but because of the sanctions and the local banking environment in Belarus, it's not always guaranteed to work as smoothly as it would in other European countries. Basically, you might have luck with it at some ATMs or some merchants, but it's good to have a backup plan, like carrying some cash to exchange just in case. So it's possible, but I'd say be prepared for it to not be 100% reliable there.
So, what was the other question I had? Oh man, what was it?
No worries. It happens to all of us. If it comes back to you, just let me know and we'll pick it up from there. In the meantime, if there's anything else on
Oh
your
yeah,
mind,
I remember. Okay, yeah. So can a Mir card, MIR, can they work in Belarus?
yes, absolutely. Mirror cards are actually a really good option if you're planning to spend time in both Russia and Belarus. They're part of the Russian national payment system and they're widely accepted in Belarus as well. So if you have a mirror card, you should be able to use it for payments there without any of the issues you'd run into with other foreign cards. It's a pretty handy solution if you're navigating between those two countries.
Okay, thank you.